Mom wants us to come home for the New Year holiday.
My husband suddenly told me during our first holiday season as a married couple. I told him I wanted to visit my own family too, but he flatly refused. To make things worse, his mother started berating me, saying I lacked awareness as a wife and calling me a shoddy daughter-in-law. No matter how much I tried to negotiate, my husband always sided with his mother. I had had enough. I couldn't play this family game anymore. I decided to take measures that would permanently sever ties with my in-laws. My name is Abby, and I'm 28 years old. I married Malcolm, my boyfriend of 2 years. Our newlywed life was going smoothly. Both of us work full-time, so neither of us bear the burden of household chores alone. Being a woman, I didn't want all the housework pushed onto me, so I made sure my husband did his share. My job and personal life were fulfilling. I even started thinking about having a child once things settled down a bit. 1 month after we got married, I was suddenly summoned to my in-laws' home. Summoned might not be the right word, though. At that time, I simply thought I was invited to visit their home. I had visited my in-laws before we got married, but I was too nervous to engage in any meaningful conversation. I thought that this could be a good opportunity to bond with my mother-in-law. With such a light feeling, I headed to my mother-in-law's house. However, the reason for the summoning was nothing short of outrageous. After arriving at the family's house, we are led into the living room. As soon as my husband and I sat down on the sofa in their living room, my mother-in-law's voice rang out.
"Excuse me, Abby. Why are you sitting there so leisurely? Please make me some tea."
I'm sorry." Caught off guard, I apologized. I was under the impression that I would be treated as a guest at my in-laws' home. I wasn't expecting anything lavish, but I certainly didn't expect to be treated like a servant.
"Abby, you're taking too long to steep the tea. Hey, it's common sense to warm up the cup first."
My mother-in-law was watching me prepare the tea, constantly sighing. My father-in-law and husband said nothing. I thought if she had so many complaints, why didn't she just make the tea herself? I admit my tea-making skills were lacking, but I was also annoyed by her imposing her own standards on me. Then, on another day, I was about to clean our house when my mother-in-law suddenly called me. I hurried over to my in-laws' house with my husband, only to find my mother-in-law already angry.
"Why didn't you bring any gifts? Isn't it common to bring a gift when visiting your in-laws?"
She reprimanded me without preamble. I didn't have any plans to go out today, and I only decided to come here at the last minute, so...
"I'm not asking for excuses. These days, daughters-in-law quickly show disrespect to their mothers-in-law, don't they? I really got stuck with a shoddy daughter-in-law."
I'm sorry. In the midst of all this, neither my husband nor my father-in-law offered me any support. I didn't necessarily want them to defend me. I just wanted someone to stop my mother-in-law's unreasonable tirade. After my mother-in-law's lecture, I whispered to my husband, "Hey, Malcolm, can you say something to your mom? It was a last-minute decision to come today, so there was no way I could have prepared a gift." But my husband just sighed, in an annoyed manner.
"Don't you think you should always have some gifts ready, just in case you have to visit? I agree with my mom on this."
The response I got from my husband were irrational words blaming me. Is he kidding me? Why is he taking my mother-in-law's side too? Not only has my impression of my husband decreased, but within a few days, I've developed an aversion towards my mother-in-law. After that, I was regularly called in and had the ways of the in-laws imposed on me. When you visit your in-laws, the daughter-in-law takes care of all the chores. The daughter-in-law prioritizes her husband and parents-in-law. The New Year's vacation is always spent at the in-laws' house and so on. Honestly, isn't their thinking way too outdated? Even I had grown fearful of visiting my husband's family. On our first New Year's holiday after marriage, my husband told me,
"We're expected to return for the New Year's holiday."
"What? Hold on. When will I be able to visit my family?"
It might be tough this time. We can decide again after the New Year."
"What's with that? We promised to visit both families equally, didn't we?" I was infuriated by my husband's irresponsibility. He responded with an air of annoyance.
It can't be helped now, right? No point in bringing that up.
Why would he sigh at a time like this? We had clearly agreed on this before we got married. That's right. Both my husband and I were the type to want to visit our families regularly. That's why we rented an apartment halfway between both our parents' homes and decided to visit them equally. But when we opened the lid, we had already visited the in-laws 6 times, and I had only been able to return to my family once. According to my husband, this time we were to stay at his parents' house from the end of work until work resumes. There's no way I can accept such an absurd proposal, I demanded of my husband. At least before work starts again, I want to visit my family. When my husband told me to
ask Mom,
I called my mother-in-law. The first thing my mother-in-law said when she answered the phone was,
Abby, you're in charge of the special New Year's dinner, okay?
I understand, but I will definitely visit my family before work starts, so please be prepared for that. When I clearly told her that, my mother-in-law raised her voice in surprise.
What's with that? Prioritizing your own family? You like the consciousness of a daughter-in-law.
I was lectured for an hour over the phone and ended up completely exhausted. When I complained about it to my husband, he casually replied,
Mom just wants you to be a good wife, Abby. She often says, I want her to be a wife fit for our family.
His dull nature was also draining me. In the end, we ended up spending the entire New Year's holiday at my in-laws' place. It's your first New Year's since you got married, so prioritize them. That's what my mother said, so I reluctantly complied. During our stay at the in-laws, I worked like a maid. From preparing meals to cleaning the whole house, doing the laundry, taking out the trash, I ended up having to do everything by myself. If I asked my husband for help, I was scolded.
Abby, this is the wife's job, isn't it? Malcolm is tired from his usual work, so it's only natural that he should rest during the New Year's holiday, right? You're really inconsiderate.
I work full-time too, you know. Thanks to you, I haven't been able to rest at all during the New Year's holiday, you know? Though I retorted in my heart, I didn't want to make a fuss at the beginning of the new year. It's the first year of our marriage. I forced myself to accept it and somehow made it through the holiday at the in-laws' house. I hadn't seen my family since the start of the new year. My husband offhandedly told me,
I'm tired. I'll stay home.
So I ended up going to visit my family alone. That's probably when my trust in him began to wane. Of course, I had complaints about my mother-in-law and my husband's family too. But more than that, I was fed up with my husband, who wouldn't take me seriously when I tried to talk to him. Even after the new year, the harassment from my mother-in-law didn't stop. When I began refusing to visit her home, she started calling every day. When I woke up in the morning, there would already be about 10 missed calls. I thought something had happened, so I called back, only to have my mother-in-law yelling at me.
So you finally woke up. You lack a sense of responsibility as a wife. Get up at 5 a.m. every day and make a nutritious meal for Malcolm.
Even if I got home a little late from work, she would scold me terribly.
I heard from Malcolm. It's outrageous for a woman to stay late at work. A wife who doesn't come home before her husband is the worst. Prioritize your home, you heartless girl.
I actually earn more than your son. In fact, I contribute more to our living expenses. I almost pointed this out many times, but I somehow held it in and just brushed it off with a, yeah. Gradually, I stopped answering calls from my mother-in-law and deleted her voicemails without listening to them. This went on for about a year, and then the hellish season came around again. Sure enough, my husband was pestering me saying,
Mom says you should come home for the New Year's holiday.
This time, I firmly told my husband, I am not going this year. I can't bear it anymore. I'm not a housekeeper. My husband, annoyed by my words, grumbled at me.
Listen, Abby, don't upset my mom. You married me, so at least be considerate of my family.
Excuse me? You never even properly show your face to my family. Besides, I've been working really hard to build a good relationship with your mother.
That's why my mom is always mad, right? You need to try harder.
Try harder? As if I'm the only one to blame? Seething with rage, my husband dropped the final bomb.
Let me tell you something, Abby. Mom is mad because you're a failure. You get that?
At that moment, the dam I had barely been holding back finally burst. A failure? It's my fault? I've been putting his family first for his sake and putting up with it all this time? Taking a deep breath, I looked my husband in the eye. I'm cutting ties with your family. I'm never seeing your father and mother again. My husband looked surprised for a moment, but he must have realized that anything he said now would be futile. Surprisingly, he gave in quite easily.
All right, I get it. Totally fine. I'll go home alone for the holidays.
Our relationship got a bit strained after that. We talked less at home, but frankly, I didn't care. I was able to spend the New Year's holiday with my family for the first time in a while. That fact alone made me extremely happy. When I arrived at my parents' house, my mom asked worryingly, "Abby, is everything okay with Malcolm's family? I can't help but worry." "I'm fine, Mom. I made it clear to him that I won't be involved anymore." "Is that so? I hope everything's all right." My mom still looked a bit uneasy. She's worried in her own way about my relationship with my husband's family. After enjoying my childhood home after so long and leaving the housework to Mom, I was relaxing when suddenly the doorbell rang. "Coming!" I quickly headed for the door, only to find my husband standing there. What?" I was taken aback, not expecting this at all. He looked worn out. I invited him in, but he didn't say a word. Losing patience, I demanded an explanation. "What's up? Weren't you supposed to be going home to your folks today, Malcolm?" At that, my husband slowly opened his mouth.
Mom said to bring Abby.
"What? Again? How relentless can my mother-in-law be?" Though outraged, I held my ground. "Didn't I tell you I'm not going to your parents' house again? When I said I was cutting ties with them, you agreed, right, Malcolm?"
"Yeah, but Mom's angry. She says it's inconceivable for a daughter-in-law not to visit her in-laws."
"I don't care. I can't handle your mother's harassment anymore. And I'm fed up with your father's indifference too, so I don't intend to see them ever again." Upon hearing this, my husband pleaded.
"That's a problem. Like Mom said, Abby, you married into this family. Please consider my position."
"Your position? How ridiculous. What era are you living in?" I vented my anger at him. "Enough is enough. I didn't get married to become your parents' housekeeper. I don't want anything to do with in-laws who harass me and a husband who doesn't stand up for me." I had never spoken so strongly. My husband flinched. But it wasn't enough. Not compared to the humiliation I'd endured all this while. "If you continue to side with your mother, I'll divorce you."
Divorce? You're joking, right?
"I'm serious. Being mistreated just because I'm your wife? Living with a husband who won't help me and simply does what his mother says? I'll never be happy. I'd be far better off single." When he realized that I was seriously considering divorce, his face turned pale. Just then, his phone rang. Looking at the screen, he appeared startled. I knew right away it was his mother calling.
"Hello?"
My husband responded with a pitiful voice. I could hear his mother squawking loudly over the phone, even from where I was standing. Losing patience with my husband's wavering, I snatched the phone from him. Hello, mother-in-law, it's me. No matter how much you try to use my husband, I won't be coming over anymore."
"What? You're my daughter-in-law, aren't you? I won't accept that."
My mother-in-law fired back without missing a beat, but I retorted with twice the power. "Daughter-in-law? Daughter-in-law? Are you living in the Stone Age? It's the 21st century."
"What an insolent bride. You can at least show up at the house for special occasions."
"No way. My husband is free to go there, but whether it's a special occasion or not, I absolutely will not go. If you have anything more to say, I'll divorce Malcolm."
Divorce? Are you planning to disgrace Malcolm?"
"Then let's divorce once and remarry under my surname. That's fine, right?"
"That's ridiculous. I won't allow that."
"Do as you please. Regardless of what you say, I have no intention of dealing with you guys ever again. Goodbye." With that, I spat out and hung up the phone. I then turned to face my husband. "That's the deal. Like I said before, if you take your mother's side, we'll get a divorce. If you can understand my point of view and treat me as an equal, I'll let this slide.
I understand. I choose you, Abby.
My husband hung his head for a while, but ultimately made the decision to give our relationship another shot. Since then, I stopped visiting my in-laws, and the mother-in-law stopped contacting us as well. Perhaps reflecting on his past behavior, my husband now regularly visits my parents. Of course, my parents don't treat him like a workhorse. They adore him as if he were their own son. I'm sure we'll face many obstacles in the future. Even so, I want to team up with my husband who chose me and overcome each day together.